They told you that you will die. They told you that everything ends. They told you that there is a final curtain, a last breath, a darkness where nothing remains. You believed it because everyone around you believed it too. But what if this is the greatest lie ever spoken? What if the one truth that could set you free has been hidden in plain sight? Rumi whispers across centuries, "Do not be fooled by appearances. Death is not what you think it is. What you call death is only a door. What you call an end is only a beginning. The grave is not silence but a threshold. The darkness you fear is only the shadow of light that has not yet revealed itself." Every culture builds stories around death. Some tell of punishment and reward, others of sleep and return, still others of nothingness. But Rumi takes the knife to all these stories. He does not comfort you with myths. He dares you to see with your own eyes. He says, "Die before you die, and you will never taste death again." What does it mean to die before dying? It means letting go of illusions while you are still alive. It means stripping away the mask of the ego, the costume of identity, the cage of fear. The little self dies, and the real self wakes up. When this happens, death loses its teeth. What can death do to you if you have already crossed it? Think of sleep. Each night you vanish. Each night you lose control. Your body lies still. Your mind dissolves into dreams. Yet each morning you return. You do not call that death because you trust the return. Rumi says death is no different. The only difference is that you fear it because you have been told to fear it. He reminds us that the soul is not a flickering candle that the wind can blow out. The soul is the fire itself. It does not end when the wax is gone. It does not vanish when the candle breaks. Fire moves, fire changes form, fire finds new vessels. The flame leaps from one wick to another. And you, he says, are that flame. The tragedy of life is not death. The tragedy is believing in death as final. The tragedy is building your life on fear instead of love. Because fear makes you cling. Fear makes you shrink. Fear makes you live half a life. Rumi turns the blade against fear itself. He says, the wound is the place where light enters you, and death, the ultimate wound, is the greatest entry point of all. Imagine standing at the edge of a great sea. You fear drowning. You fear disappearing into the waves. But the truth is, you are not the swimmer. You are the water. You are not the one standing on the shore. You are the sea itself. This is the secret that Rumi hides in plain sight. When you understand this, death no longer frightens you. It becomes the homecoming you always longed for. And so, he whispers again, die before you die. Let go of the false self. Step into the fire while you are alive. Discover that nothing essential can ever be taken from you. Discover that death is not the end of your story, but the lifting of the final veil. When you see this, you will not only stop fearing death, you will start living for the first time. When you stand before death, you imagine a heavy door, a door with locks, a door that slams shut, a door beyond which there is only nothing. This picture has been carved into your mind since childhood. Yet Rumi smiles gently and says, the door is not there. The wall you fear is only mist. You walk through it every night in sleep and every day in silence, and yet you never notice. To him, death is not a door that closes, but a veil that lifts. He compares it to the moment when a shadow disappears at sunrise. The shadow was never real. It had no substance of its own. It was only the play of light and form. And so it is with the self you cling to. You cry at the thought of losing it. You tremble at the thought of its end. But it was never solid to begin with. It was only a passing shadow. We live our lives building fortresses around shadows. We build monuments to names, reputations, bodies, and possessions. We defend them as if they were eternal. But Rumi tells us they are not the treasure. They are only the wrapping. The real jewel lies inside, untouched by time, untouched by decay. Death does not touch that jewel. Death cannot even see it. What is it then, this jewel that survives? Rumi calls it the beloved. Some call it the soul, others call it awareness. It is the silent witness, the one who sees birth, the one who sees loss, the one who sees the body wither, but is never touched by any of it. You mistake yourself for the passing images, but you are the screen upon which they play. When the images change, the screen remains. Imagine watching a play in a theater. Actors enter, perform, cry, laugh, and leave. Costumes change, scenes collapse, stories end. But the stage is always there. The stage never disappears. You are not the character on the stage. You are the stage itself. Death only takes the costumes. Death only ends the act. The stage remains, waiting for new stories, new masks, new dances. This is why Rumi warns against clinging. He says, do not get drunk on the play. Do not mistake the mask for the face. If you do, death will terrify you, because it rips the mask away. But if you know that you are the face beneath, then death is not loss. Death is revelation. The door that you fear is not there. What you think of as an end is only transition. Just as water changes into vapor, and vapor becomes cloud, and cloud becomes rain, so does the soul move through forms without ever being destroyed. You are not the drop that vanishes. You are the ocean that cannot be lost. And so, when Rumi whispers die before you die, he is not asking for despair. He is asking for awakening. Step beyond the false door. Step beyond the illusion of finality. See for yourself that life never ends. And when you see this, you will no longer crawl through your days afraid of shadows. You will walk with the dignity of one who knows he cannot die. Fear of death is not born in the moment of dying. It is planted early, like a seed in the soil of the mind. From the first stories you hear as a child, from the first funeral you see, from the whispers of adults who tremble before the inevitable, the seed is watered, and it grows. By the time you are grown, fear has become the hidden root of almost every choice you make. Rumi sees this and exposes it. He says that fear of death is the greatest illusion because it feeds itself endlessly. You fear loss, so you cling. The more you cling, the more fragile you feel. The more fragile you feel, the more you fear. Fear breeds more fear, like a snake eating its own tail. The cycle never ends until you break it by seeing the truth. Think about how much of life is driven by this silent fear. People chase wealth to shield themselves from uncertainty. They chase beauty to escape decay. They chase power to feel safe in a world they cannot control. Yet no matter how much they gather, no matter how tightly they hold, death seems to stand at the edge, waiting. This is why the fear grows. Because what you fear, you feed. But Rumi offers a shocking reversal. He says, look directly at the thing you fear most. Do not run from death. Do not hide it in silence. Turn and face it, and you will see that it was never real. The monster dissolves when the lamp of awareness shines upon it. What terrified you was only a shadow. He compares fear to mist before the morning sun. At night it looks heavy, it looks endless, it looks impossible to cross. But when the light rises, it melts without a sound. Death is the same. It is not a mountain, it is mist. And fear is the veil that makes the mist look solid. Rumi tells us that the only true death is the death of fear itself. Once fear dies, you are free. Once fear dies, you can live. Once fear dies, you can meet death not as an enemy, but as a lover. He dares to say what few would even whisper: death is union, not separation. Fear blinds you from seeing it. Imagine standing in a room filled with mirrors. Each mirror shows your face, but distorted. Some make you look older, some younger, some broken, some monstrous. You panic at the images, but then you realize it was only your reflection all along. Nothing was threatening you. Death is one of those mirrors. It shows you an image that frightens you, but what it reflects is only yourself. And so, the fear that feeds itself collapses when you recognize it as illusion. When you see it for what it is, the endless cycle breaks. The snake no longer eats its own tail. The seed no longer grows. Instead, the soul stands unshaken, rooted not in fear, but in love. Rumi says the soul is not fragile. It is not a flickering candle trembling in the wind. The soul is fire itself, and fire cannot be destroyed. When the wax burns away, when the candle breaks, when the room falls into ruin, the flame leaps to another vessel. What you call death is only the breaking of a container, never the end of the flame. This image is not comfort poetry. It is truth hidden in plain sight. All around us, nature repeats this lesson. The forest burns, and from its ashes green shoots rise. The star collapses, and from its deathlight new worlds are born. The body ages, but within it, a fire glows that no wrinkle, no illness, no ending can touch. The tragedy is not that we die, but that we confuse ourselves with the candle instead of the fire. We cling to the wax, to the shape, to the form, forgetting that what burns within is beyond form. This is why death terrifies us, because we think the breaking of the candle is the extinguishing of the flame. Rumi tears this illusion apart. He says, if you want to know what you are, look not at your body, but at your burning. Look at the longing that drives you, the love that refuses to die, the hunger for meaning that nothing in the world can satisfy. That is the fire. That is what endures. That is the flame no death can touch. Think of a torch passed from hand to hand. One bearer falls, but the fire continues in the next. One generation passes, but the light they carried lives in the souls of their children, their students, their lovers. And beyond even these lines of inheritance, there is the fire that is not of this earth at all. It is the eternal flame, the spark of the beloved, passed from vessel to vessel, yet never reduced, never diminished. This is why Rumi dares us to shift our gaze. He does not say deny the body. He says see through it. See it as the lamp, not the light. Respect the lamp, care for the lamp, but do not mistake it for the sun. The sun does not die when a lamp is shattered. The fire does not vanish when a candle melts. In the same way, your death is only the breaking of form. The soul continues. The flame leaps. The fire burns on. When you understand this, fear weakens its grip, because you realize that what you are cannot be touched. What you are cannot be reduced to ashes. What you are cannot be extinguished. And so Rumi's words echo like a challenge. Do not live like a candle afraid of melting. Live like the fire itself, unafraid, free, burning even in the wind. For the secret is already known. The flame that is you was never born, and therefore it can never die. We have been told to fear death as the great thief, the destroyer, the end of all things. But Rumi dares to say the opposite. He says death is not a thief, but a messenger. It is not destruction, but arrival. It is not the closing of a door, but the lifting of a veil. And behind that veil waits the beloved. He writes of death as the final homecoming, the long-awaited return. Imagine a traveler wandering through deserts, over mountains, across endless roads, carrying the ache of separation in his heart. Every night he looks at the stars and longs for home. Every morning, he takes another step with heavy feet. When he finally arrives, is he afraid? No, he collapses in relief. No, he weeps with joy. No, he embraces the familiar doorway and feels the burden fall away. This, Rumi says, is death. But why does it terrify us? Because we mistake the journey for the home. We become attached to the road itself, to the dust on our sandals, to the weight of our pack. We forget that we were never meant to stay on the road forever. The road is only passage. The destination is union. The end is not the grave, but the arms of the beloved. Rumi uses daring language. He calls death a wedding night. He calls it the merging of lover and beloved. He says that the soul has always been engaged, and death is the final consummation. To the fearful, this sounds strange, even scandalous. But to the mystic, it is the deepest truth. Love is the secret behind every ending. Think of the moth that burns itself in the candle flame. To outside eyes, it looks like destruction. To the moth, it is ecstasy. It is not pain, but fulfillment, not loss, but arrival. So too with death. From outside, it looks tragic. From within, it is union. The veil is what blinds us, the veil of fear, of attachment, of false identity. But a veil can only cover the face. It cannot erase it. When the veil is lifted, the face is revealed. Death is not the erasing of the beloved, but the lifting of the veil that kept us from seeing. This is why Rumi repeats his invitation. Do not wait for death to tear away the veil. Begin now. Tear it yourself. Die before you die. Let go of illusions. Let go of fears. Let go of the self you cling to, and you will taste in this life what others fear to taste in death. You will know the secret, that the union is not far away. It is here. That the beloved has always been waiting, not beyond the grave, but behind the veil of your own heart. Rumi often reminds us that the body is not who we are. The body is a garment, woven of dust and time, borrowed for a while, and then returned to the earth. To mistake this garment for the self is like mistaking a coat for the traveler who wears it. When death comes, it does not burn the traveler. It only folds away the coat. Think of a child who outgrows his clothes. At first, he clings to them, unwilling to let go of what is familiar. But soon the fabric tightens, the seams press, the cloth no longer fits. To stay in it would be suffocation. And so he removes it, steps free, and grows into something larger. This, Rumi says, is what happens when the soul sheds the body. It is not destruction, it is expansion. Yet we cling desperately to the garment. We polish it, decorate it, protect it as if it were eternal. We fear wrinkles, fear illness, fear decay, forgetting that no matter how fine the cloth, it was never meant to last forever. The true self is not in the threads. The true self is the one who wears them. Death, then, is not an enemy. It is a tailor. It comes to free us from the garment that no longer serves. It comes to strip away what is too tight, too heavy, too worn. And beneath it all, the soul breathes again, unclothed and luminous, ready for the next garment, or ready for the freedom of no garment at all. Rumi tells us not to curse the tailor. Do not hate the hand that removes what you no longer need. Do not mistake loss for punishment. The garment did its work. It sheltered you. It carried you. It gave you shape for a time. But now the soul moves on. Imagine a bird in a cage. The cage is useful for a while. It offers protection. It teaches patience. But when the bird has grown strong, when its wings ache for the sky, the cage door must open. The cage may shatter. The bird may tremble at first. But the open sky is its true home. The cage was never the final dwelling. Neither is the body. This is why Rumi warns us. Do not confuse the cage with the bird, the coat with the traveler, the lamp with the light. If you do, death will terrify you, because it takes away what you thought was you. But if you know the truth, you will greet death as release, not robbery. And so the body becomes a teacher. Every wrinkle, every ache, every weakness is not a curse, but a reminder. The garment is wearing thin. The threads are loosening. Be ready, Rumi whispers. The tailor is coming, and he comes not to punish, but to free. Rumi says the soul is like a river. It flows through valleys and mountains, twists through fields and deserts, nourishes villages, carries boats, reflects the sky, but it never forgets where it came from. Deep in its current is the memory of the sea. And just as every river must one day return to the ocean, so too must the soul return to its source. This return, which we call death, is not destruction. It is reunion. Think of how a river behaves when it nears the sea. Its waters swell. Its current grows stronger. Its voice deepens. It rushes with longing. You can almost hear it crying out as it merges into the vastness that has always been waiting. To the river, this is not the end. It is fulfillment. It is destiny. But to those standing on the shore, it may look like loss. They see the river dissolve. They see its name vanish. They see its shape erased. They weep, not understanding that nothing has been lost. The river has not died. It has become more itself than ever before. It has become sea. This is why Rumi calls death the great homecoming. He says that the soul never truly belonged to the earth. It passed through, it played, it loved, it suffered, but always it carried within itself the taste of salt water, the memory of the ocean. The ache we feel in our chests, the longing we cannot name, is nothing less than the pull of that sea. Why then do we fear the return? Because we mistake the river for the whole story. We cling to its bends, to its banks, to its ripples, and we forget the vastness that is waiting. We cry when the river merges, but the river itself is rejoicing. Rumi says, do not cling to the form. Trust the flow. You are not the streambed. You are the current. You are the water. You cannot be lost. Imagine dipping your hand into a river. You cannot hold the water. It slips through your fingers. But has it been lost? No, it continues its journey. It is still water. It is still alive. Your hand was never its prison. In the same way, the body is only a temporary channel. The soul continues its flow, untouched, unstoppable, unending. This is why Rumi speaks of longing with such fire. Longing is the river remembering the sea. Longing is the proof that we do not end here, that we are not bounded by banks and rocks. Longing is the soul crying out for the vastness it knows awaits. When death comes, it is not a thief, but the tide pulling us home. And so he whispers again, lose your fear. Do not tremble when the river dissolves. The river was never meant to stay a river. The river was always meant to remember the sea. Rumi says that silence is the language of God, and all else is a poor translation. If this is true, then death is not an ending, but a return to that language. It is not the shutting of the mouth, but the opening of the great silence that lies beyond every word. We live surrounded by noise, the chatter of thoughts, the hum of worries, the endless voices of the world. We cling to words as if they could hold reality. But words are shadows of meaning, fragile nets thrown over an ocean too vast to catch. Death comes to tear those nets apart. It comes not as cruelty, but as mercy, so that we may enter the ocean directly. This is why Rumi describes death not with fear, but with longing. To him, it is the moment when the instrument is set down and the music itself continues. It is when the pen is lifted and the story still lives in the heart of the author. It is when the tongue stills, but the truth it struggled to speak resounds louder than ever. Imagine a great hall filled with echoes. You hear voices bouncing from every wall, clashing, colliding, confusing. But then, in a sudden hush, all the echoes vanish. And in that hush, you hear something deeper, something pure, a vibration that was always there, but drowned out by the noise. That hush is what Rumi points to. That hush is what death reveals. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is fullness. Silence is presence. It is the moment when the drop becomes ocean, when the shadow returns to light, when the soul lays down its heavy garments and enters naked into truth. Death, then, is not absence. It is the most perfect presence of all. We tremble at the thought because we confuse silence with nothing. We think silence is void. But Rumi says silence is the womb of everything. It is the soil from which words sprout, the sky in which stars burn, the breath that sustains all breaths. Death is the doorway into that silence, and in that silence, the beloved waits. This is why mystics sit in silence for hours, why they listen more than they speak, why they enter stillness as if it were a temple. They are practicing for death. They are learning the language of God, so that when the final silence comes, they do not panic. They rejoice. They recognize it not as an intruder, but as home. And so Rumi dares us again. Do not wait until your last breath to know this silence. Enter it now. Taste it now. Learn the language now. Because when death comes, it will not surprise you. It will feel like the beloved voice you have always known. It will feel like home. Most people see death as darkness, a shadow that swallows the flame, a night that never ends. But Rumi takes this image and turns it inside out. He says that shadow is not the enemy of light. It is proof of light. Without light, there would be no shadow. Death, then, is not the absence of life, but the other face of it. Think of how dawn breaks. At first, there is only night, heavy and endless. But night is not an enemy. It is the canvas upon which morning paints its first fire. It is the womb in which the day is conceived. So too with death. The darkness you fear is only the backdrop against which new life reveals itself. Rumi says, do not curse the shadow. Walk into it. Embrace it. For within it, the hidden light waits. He calls death the night of union, the night when the lover disappears into the beloved. To outside eyes, it looks like loss. To those who know, it is the fullness of light hidden beneath the cloak of shadow. Imagine standing in a cave. At first, all you see is blackness. But slowly, your eyes adjust. You notice glimmers, reflections, crystals shining faintly in the walls. The longer you stand, the brighter they become, until you realize the cave is filled with hidden jewels. Death is that cave. Fear makes you rush out, but patience reveals the treasure. This is why Rumi speaks of the shadow with tenderness. He knows that light and shadow are lovers, dancing around one another. One reveals the other. One cannot exist without the other. To deny death is to deny life. To fear the shadow is to miss the glory of the light it carries. When you see death not as destruction, but as shadow, you stop trembling. You begin to understand that what you fear is not darkness itself, but the unknown. Yet the unknown is always where the beloved hides. The shadow is only his cloak. The moment it falls away, the light blinds you with its brilliance. And so Rumi's challenge becomes clear. Do not run from the shadow. Do not waste your days cursing the dark. Step into it with courage. Trust that the light is already there, waiting. The shadow is only the veil. The light is eternal. And death, far from ending life, is the moment when shadow falls and light shines unhidden. Rumi tells us that nothing in existence is ever lost. Everything moves in circles. Everything dances in rhythm. Everything returns. Birth and death are not two separate events. They are steps in a single dance. To see them as opposites is to misunderstand the music. Think of the seasons. Winter looks like death, yet it hides the seed of spring. Summer looks eternal, yet it prepares the way for autumn. The wheel turns, not once, but endlessly. Rumi says the soul is the same. It does not end. It changes its rhythm, its costume, its stage. But the dance continues. He writes that death is like changing music in the middle of a feast. The guests panic, thinking the song has ended. But the musician only shifts the melody. The dance does not stop. It deepens. It transforms. The rhythm you thought was final is only a bridge to another. In the eyes of the mystic, eternity is not somewhere else, hidden in clouds or distant heavens. Eternity is now. It is the current beneath the surface of time. We mistake the waves for the sea. We mistake the ticking clock for the dance itself. But eternity flows beneath all clocks, all waves, all stories. Death does not touch it. Imagine a wheel turning. The spokes rise and fall. One moment at the top, the next at the bottom. But the wheel itself moves on, carrying every spoke in its endless circle. Life is one spoke, death another, rebirth another still. To cling to one spoke and fear the next is madness. The wheel will turn whether you fear it or not. Better to learn its rhythm, better to join its dance. Rumi calls this the endless festival of the soul. He says that each death is not a closing, but a new invitation. Each ending is a doorway to another step in the dance. When you know this, grief softens, fear dissolves, and even the sting of loss becomes part of the music. But here lies the secret. The dance is not random. It is choreographed by love itself. The beloved is the musician, the dancer, and the dance all at once. To fear death, then, is to forget who leads. To surrender is to realize that every step has already been guided, every rhythm already woven, every turn already blessed. And so Rumi tells us, do not resist the rhythm. Do not stand stiff with fear when the music changes. Let yourself be carried, trust the dance. For in truth, there is no beginning and no end. There is only the eternal movement of love, and you are already within it. Rumi says the greatest mistake is to think the soul begins with birth and ends with death. The soul has no beginning and no end. It is not a spark lit by chance. It is the eternal fire itself, borrowed for a time by the body, but never created and never destroyed. Immortality is not something you earn. It is what you already are. From the moment we are born, we are taught to measure life like a line, a beginning, a middle, an end. But Rumi tears this picture apart. Life is not a line. It is a circle without edge, a flame without source, a song without first note or last. To think otherwise is to confuse the stage with the play. The stage was always there. The play only comes and goes. Imagine a traveler who mistakes the inn for his home. He decorates it, clings to it, fears leaving it. But the inn was never permanent. It was always a stop on the way. The soul is the traveler, not the inn. Death only clears the room. The journey continues. This is why Rumi speaks of immortality, not as a reward, but as reality. He says the fear of death comes from forgetting this truth. You fear the end because you believe in beginnings. But the soul is not bound by time. It was before time. It will be after time. What dies is only the story told within time. What remains is the storyteller. Think of a mirror shattered. The glass breaks, the frame collapses, but the reflection itself is untouched. Light still exists. The image still lives. The mirror was only a surface. The soul is the light, and the body is the mirror. When the mirror breaks, nothing essential is lost. The secret of immortality is not hidden in scriptures or philosophies. It is written in your own being. Each moment of longing, each glimpse of love, each taste of silence is the soul remembering its own eternity. Rumi says, "Listen closely. The secret is already whispering within you. You are not a temporary guest. You are the host. You are not the passing shadow. You are the eternal light behind it. To live without knowing this is to live in chains. To awaken to it is freedom. Death becomes not a terror, but a teacher. Each loss reminds you of what cannot be lost. Each ending reveals what cannot end. The secret of immortality is not that you will live forever. It is that you were never born and will never die." And so Rumi calls you to wake up. Do not wait for the grave to teach you what you already are. Learn it now. Remember it now. For the one who remembers is already free. The one who sees his eternity cannot be bound by fear, cannot be broken by time, cannot be touched by death. If death is not the end, if the soul is eternal, if the flame cannot be extinguished, then what is left? Rumi says the only true response is to live fully. Not half a life, not a cautious existence built on fear, but a life overflowing with presence, love, and surrender. For too long, humanity has lived under the shadow of endings. Every choice shaped by fear of loss, every desire muted by fear of change, every moment clouded by the belief that it will all vanish. But if you see through the lie of death, if you know that nothing real can be lost, then a new courage rises in you. Life becomes not a fragile treasure to hoard, but a feast to enter with open hands. Rumi tells us, burn like a candle, not fearing the melting. Dance like a flame, not fearing the wind. Give yourself fully to love, not fearing the wound. For the soul that cannot die has nothing to protect, nothing to guard. It can only shine, it can only give, it can only expand. Imagine stepping into each day not as a prisoner fearing the end, but as a guest at a divine banquet. The food is rich, the music eternal, the host overflowing with generosity. To hesitate, to shrink, to refuse is the true tragedy. To say yes, to taste deeply, to embrace joy and sorrow alike. This is what it means to live fully. And when death comes, you will not tremble. You will smile as one who recognizes the beloved face behind the veil. You will walk through the threshold as if stepping into the arms of a lover. You will know that what others call ending is only arrival. Rumi dares us to live with this knowledge now, not tomorrow, not in old age, not in the final hour, but here, in this breath, in this heartbeat. For the soul is eternal, but the body is fleeting. To waste its moments in fear is to miss the gift. To live with awareness is to honor both the garment and the flame it carries. And so the invitation is clear. Do not let fear guide your days. Do not let the lie of death shrink your love. Live as one who knows he cannot die. Live as one already free. Live as fire. Live as river. Live as silence. Live as love. If these words have touched you, let them be a reminder. Share them with others, for wisdom grows when given. Leave your reflection, for dialogue is another kind of prayer. And if you wish to walk further on this path with Rumi's voice as your companion, stay close, subscribe, offer your support, and let us continue this journey together. For the soul's fire never ends, and neither does the conversation.